Welcome everyone to today's non-visit college visit. And Creative College Connections is so excited, happy to try to help fill the gap here for high school students that are missing out on spring visits to colleges, feeling stuck at home, needing something to do, wanting to move forward with the college search. And we thought a great way of exposing students to more colleges and keep you with that moving forward would be to bring you different colleges, 2 colleges a week, for you to learn and to grow. And you know, you may discover a place that you hadn't considered. You may find a school that would be great for your best friend. So today I am thrilled to have Representative Marie Schofer here from Cornell College. Marie and I actually met each other years ago when I was a counselor at a school, and she used to travel a lot in the Mid-Atlantic region. And I asked Marie because Cornell College is a really special place. It is, Marie, I'm just going to give a little plug for a second, and then I'll turn it over to you. But Cornell College is part of the Colleges That Change Lives, which is an awesome group of 40 liberal arts colleges that have really impactful kinds of experiences for students. And they're unique because they are on a block schedule. And I am not going to say more than that because I'm sure that's part of what Marie's going to tell you about. So without further ado, Marie, I'm going to turn it over for you and let's learn about Cornell College today.
All right, well, great. Well, thank you, Hannah. I would like to start by actually playing a short video. So if you need to adjust your volume, please do so, but let me go ahead and start.
Cornell College offers so many unique opportunities, extraordinary opportunities.
I have never been able to ask of students on the semester plan what I can ask of students on the block plan.
The block plan, or what we call one course at a time, is a unique learning environment where students take one class for 3.5 weeks.
The block plan gives me 18 days to spend all day long with students focusing on one particular subject.
You have these small groups that spend so much time together and you learn from each other. That discussion-based learning was so fundamental to my education.
It's focused and it's easier to not get distracted, but it's also easier to get involved in things because of the way our days are structured here.
Classes are over by 3, we practice at 3:30. It's the perfect setup of not having to sacrifice academics or my sports life, so it's pretty nice.
We have new facilities in the sciences, so the Russell Science Center is a particularly exciting aspect. We involve students in research in small groups, and so I can get to know them very well and provide the support and mentorship that they need.
Having the flexibility to be with a student for 4 hours a day allows us to engage in hands-on activity to learn the material that we're teaching.
If it's lecture for 4 hours a day, anybody's going to start banging their head against the wall, but we don't do that. We've got studio work, we have lab time, we have field trips.
When you take students to the sites of the content that's being studied, then the material comes alive.
Cornell gave me the opportunity to travel abroad, and that really broadened my horizons, and now I tell every student, you should study abroad. It's such a great enhancement to what you're learning at Cornell.
When I go to Rome with a class, we are investigating ancient Rome, and we can stand in the forum and talk about it. That is an extraordinary experience in and of itself. That is not part of the classroom. And we can do this because there are no other courses in conflict.
I've actually been asked by several parents why other institutions don't use the block system if it's such a wonderful way to learn. The block system is very resource intensive.
When it comes to your professors, they do a phenomenal job of really making sure that they are available for you. They want to see you succeed.
When I'm in a class with students every day, 5 days a week for a month, 4 hours a day, we very, very quickly develop a relationship. Students are really in it together. They're supporting each other, they're helping each other out, they're all proud of each other's accomplishments.
I had a class with 16 other people, 24 at the most. So you get this community that values learning and that does everything possible to support a higher level of learning.
when our students go on to graduate school, they report back that it's easy. It's because they're used to pacing themselves and achieving things in a much shorter period of time.
We're just having students going out to great success, and what they're telling us is that the block plan did an excellent job of preparing them for upper level study, even on a semester plan, and also to go out and work in the professional world.
There is no doubt that the level of commitment, the level of engagement, the level of accountability is much higher here than any of the institutions on the semester plan. The type of commitment to themselves, to their subject matter, to their peers that's possible here, you're not going to find it anywhere else.
If you want to make a difference in the world, you come to Cornell.
So as Hannah said, my name is Marie Schofer, and I have worked at Cornell now for 14 years, and that video gives me kind of goosebumpy chills because it captures so accurately what I have seen happen at Cornell, what I have seen our students experience when they're on campus, and then what they're able to do beyond. So I'm really proud to be able to share that video with you, and proud to be able to share Cornell College with you today. As the video talked about, one of the defining features of the college is the fact that we operate on a block calendar. It's also known as one course at a time. And you'll see from this visual on this slide, it literally is one course at a time. Block 1, which is a purple box starting in August, it represents a 3.5-week class. Students go to class every day, Monday through Friday, during those 3.5 weeks. And during that time, they're only going to one class. They're typically in class 2 to 4 hours a day, usually 3 or 4 hours a day. Roughly the hours of 9 to 11 in the morning, take a break at lunch, and then come back in the afternoon for 1 to 2 hours. Class is over at 3 o'clock, and after 3 o'clock is when all of our extracurricular and co-curricular activities take place. One of the nice things about that coaches love, the choir director loves, is that everybody can be there, because class ends at a uniform time. There's no evening classes or classes that spill over into that evening time. So students are really able to focus on their classwork during the day and focus on extracurriculars and co-curriculars after that. At the end of 3.5 weeks, on that 18th day of class, students are typically taking an exam or turning in some kind of culminating project to complete the class. That could be a presentation, it could be a research paper, it could be a variety of other things. I mean, professors are very creative in the way they teach classes at Cornell. And so on the 18th day of class, you complete your class, you turn in your final assignment, and then you get a 4-day weekend before you start the next class. And we call those 4-day weekends block breaks. So it gives students kind of a time to rest and recharge and get ready to gear up for the next class. Another thing you'll notice from this calendar is that our students have 4 classes in the fall and 4 in the spring. And one thing I will point out is that because of the amount of time spent in a class on the block plan, you have to do the math, because I didn't believe this at first when I first started at Cornell, but our students actually spend more hours in class with the professors on this calendar than they would over the course of an entire semester at a semester-based calendar school. And so for that reason, our classes are actually worth 4 credit hours each. So students are taking a 16 credit hour equivalent each semester that they're at Cornell. So that's one of the reasons they're also able to graduate in 4 years. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. But again, 8 blocks during the year, and students typically take all 8 blocks. You only need 31 of the 32 possible classes to graduate, so you do have a little bit of buffer there in case you get sick or decide to do some other unique opportunity. And then here's another representation of the block plan that I like to show, just because it sort of compares the semester versus the block side by side. As you can see at the top, course 1, course 2, course 3 at Cornell is sequential, whereas the fall semester at a semester school, you're taking all 4 of those classes simultaneously. So what are the benefits of this? What's the history behind this? Back in 1978, Cornell professors were frustrated that students seemed to be juggling a lot. They weren't able to focus. It was difficult for them to get really deep into the material. And so they decided to try what some other colleges at that time were trying, which was the block plan. And we made the switch, and it wasn't necessarily easy back in 1978, but we've done it now for over 40 years. And I can tell you there's no turning back. The faculty love it, the students love it. There's just so many benefits. So obviously one of the benefits is you get to focus. You get to dive really deep into the material before you have to move on to another subject. You're never going home in the evening to juggle, which do I do first, my math homework or write my English paper. You'll never have that situation. The other thing it does is it offers up some really unique opportunities for faculty in the way they teach. Faculty have longer blocks to teach on, and so they can use that time in different ways. So I wanted to provide a few examples of that. One of the really easy things to talk about is off-campus experiences. So an art class can take an afternoon and go to an art gallery in Cedar Rapids and look at some art that they've been talking about maybe. Or an ecology class can hop into vans in the morning, go off campus at 8:30 in the morning with a sack lunch and not be back until 3 a.m. And they are literally just working in the field all day, collecting samples, making observations, doing that kind of scientific field work that they need to be doing. In the humanities and social sciences, sometimes it's a little harder to imagine what that's going to look like, but they also do field trips and also do unique activities. In our business classes, one of our business professors, she actually has made quite a few connections with local business leaders in Cedar Rapids and Iowa City in our area, and she'll actually bring in a business leader into her class early in the class. That person will discuss a problem that their company is facing. And then the students have 3.5 weeks to then come up with solutions. And that business leader then comes back 3.5 weeks later, and the students present. And that is their final project for the class. And they are then working on real projects and with real data. It's all been anonymized, and they have to sign disclosures that they're not going to release any of it. But it's a real world situation, and it's really exciting for the students. And plus, they're getting to make a connection with a real business leader too. And then another great example is in our international relations classes, one of our professors has a game of diplomacy that he likes to play because he feels like it really imitates world politics and the way things play out. But he said when he taught at a semester school, you just couldn't get through enough moves in the game to really see what was going on in a 50-minute class period or even an 1.5-hour class period. But if they've got 2 or 3 hours one morning or one afternoon, they can really get to see how this is playing out. And so he has been able to adopt that in his block teaching. And then the final story I'll tell is I remember speaking with a student athlete who I knew was a biochemistry major, and I knew that he was taking organic chemistry. And I said, Jordan, how are things going in your organic chemistry class? Because that class would have been very intimidating to me. And Jordan just said with this big smile on his face, I love it. Now, organic chemistry is a class that we teach over 2 blocks because it is a really big subject to take on. The first part of the 2-part sequence is more of the book work, lesson group work kind of format. And then the second half is almost entirely in the lab. And that's why Jordan had this huge smile on his face, because he's like, I get to put my lab coat on in the morning and I am in lab all day. And I have never seen a student talk about organic chemistry in that way before. So I think it was a great testament to what he was getting out of the block plan.
My coaches have had huge impacts on the way I approach tennis and life. All of my theater professors and guest lecturers have helped me believe in my artistic ability and taught me the value of long hours of hard work. My biology and chemistry professors have pushed me to learn amounts of information I didn't know my mind could handle. My language and humanities professors have helped me learn to see the beauty in the world. My data and statistics professors have helped me find the joy in contextual detective work with numbers. And my bosses have taught me to be a kind listener.
I think Gabby does a great job of summing up a lot of different experiences you can get at Cornell. So one of the things we also like to say about the block plan is that you can learn without boundaries. You can get outside the four walls of a classroom and experience the world around you. And that was certainly evident in the video that I showed at the beginning. Each year, we sponsor about 20 to 25 classes that actually teach off campus, typically for a week or two or even 3.5 weeks. It kind of depends on the nature of the class. But just to give you a couple of examples of some recent classes, we have had classes in geology taught in Hawaii as well as New Zealand. We have had biology classes taught in Belize and the Bahamas. Classics courses will alternate between Italy and Greece every year. This coming year, there will be a sustainability class taught in Appalachia, right here in the US. A very popular class among theater majors is 20 plays in 20 days. That has been taught both in Chicago and New York. And yes, they do see 20 plays in 20 days. And then the social sciences and humanities do take advantage of this opportunity as well. We have had English classes go to the Boundary Waters in Minnesota to teach a class called Nature Writers, or economics has gone to Shanghai, China to learn about global economy. So there's, again, lots of opportunities to get off campus. Another thing that I wanted to talk a little bit about was team teaching and also guest lectures. So the block plan makes it really easy, and I think there's just a spirit at Cornell of team teaching where professors are really collaborating together. But we had a class a couple years ago where a geology professor and a sociology professor teamed up to teach sustainability. And one of the really cool projects they had the students do was they were learning about mining techniques, and they divided the students into groups in the class, and each group had to try different mining techniques. And so there was like the whole drilling a shaft into the blueberry muffin to try to extract blueberries, and then there was the mountaintop removal technique, and they were just trying all these different techniques. But it's a great way to bring both science and social science students together to work on problems. And that's something that's really big at Cornell, is that those interdisciplinary connections. Another thing that I want to talk about in terms of academics is our new Ingenuity curriculum. We are starting a new curriculum this fall of 2020, and it's called Ingenuity. And what I really like about it is that we're trying to get away from just having students check off, yeah, I took a math class, yes, I took a foreign language class, and get beyond that and help students understand, why are you taking classes like that? What is the benefit to you? And help them understand how it's going to fit into their broader education. So our Ingenuity curriculum starts with foundations courses, and those include the first year seminar course. Block 1 of every student's experience at Cornell is a first-year seminar where they're not only learning content and earn a grade, but they're also learning how to learn on the block plan. It's new for everybody. I mean, I know of almost no block plan schools at the high school level that are truly like what we do. And so students have to adapt and adjust to that. And we have faculty that are really excited about teaching that class because they like helping students with that transition. There's also a mandatory writing class that you have to take sometime within your first year, preferably in the first semester, because writing is so intensive in the Cornell curriculum in general that we want to make sure students are really ready for those college level writing expectations. So writing courses are called W courses at Cornell, and they can also be across the curriculum. I mean, there's an environmental studies course that's a W course. So students can take a wide variety of courses to get that requirement in. Then they go on to explorations. And this is where, even if a student knows what they want to major in, we still want to encourage them to take a few classes outside of that area to help them explore other possibilities in case they do want to maybe choose a minor or double major or even change a major. Then they go on to building essential abilities. These include quantitative skills, advancing their reading skills. And again, we let them choose which classes they take, but they've got to be classes that fulfill that requirement of, building quantitative skills, for example. But again, there's a lot of choice. Then the next requirement is ingenuity in action. And there are 6 categories where students can fulfill this requirement. It includes leadership, like if you're the basketball captain, or it could be if you're the leader of a club on campus. It could include service work. It could include research. It could include an internship. But what students are going to have to do to fulfill that requirement is write a reflection on how that ingenuity in action activity went toward their education, went toward their college experience. They actually have to do 2 of those ingenuity in action experiences. This is one of those things that it maybe sounds like a lot, but it's really not, because the vast majority of our students are doing these experiences anyway. But we want them to be prepared to be able to talk about them and talk about how that experience is forwarding their education. And then finally, the Ingenuity Portfolio, which is going to be sort of a collection of all of these experiences put together in a format that a student could potentially even share with a graduate school or a future employer to say, this is what I've done, and this is what makes me a good candidate for you. So it sums it all up just right. All right, I'm going to keep moving on. I want to get to a lot of material, so I'm going to go over this a little bit quickly, but I wanted to share this slide to show about all the different ways that Cornell will support you as a student. This is especially within your first year. So you can see on this Venn diagram that your very first class at Cornell, you will have a first year seminar professor. You will have a first year seminar success instructor who is not necessarily a faculty member. It could be a staff member, could be a coach, could be somebody from the student affairs office or even the admissions office, but somebody just to be there to help students in that class navigate the campus and navigate resources and assistance that they could get. There will be your academic advisor. You're assigned a faculty member the minute you step on campus who will help you with choosing classes. You never will choose classes just on your own in isolation. You'll always have somebody there to help you with that process. And then upperclassmen student mentors, which includes the residence assistant that lives in your lives in your residence hall, or your peer assistant who leads your orientation group, and then other students that you make connections with as well. So just to talk about our campus, it is a gorgeous campus, and we are even though we're in Mount Vernon, we're not on a mountain, but we are on a hill. And what you're looking at right now is really the top of that hill. And when you're walking down the pedestrian mall, that sidewalk that runs right down the middle, you're getting these great views off into the distance on either side. But our campus is right on the spine of that hill. These kind of point out where the residence halls are and the dining services in our commons. You can see where our chaplain's office is, campus safety, as well as health and counseling services located right on campus. The orange represents just all the activities that you can participate in and where they're located. And then academics, there's academic activity and faculty mentoring happening throughout the campus as well. And then the last category is sort of that alumni, career mentoring, like taking that next step off into the real world. I'll talk a little bit more about our Berry Career Institute in a minute and how that office supports students as they go on into the working world or into graduate school. So here's a quick map to show you where Iowa is, and more specifically where Cornell is. We are located in eastern Iowa. We are in a town of about 5,000 people called Mount Vernon. But one of the things that I loved about living in Mount Vernon, I work remotely now, but one of the things I loved living about there was that I was 15 minutes from Cedar Rapids, 20 minutes from the airport, and I was about 30 minutes from Iowa City. So I never felt isolated. I was living in a small town, but I was close to all the resources I needed. We're also within a 5-hour drive of a bunch of major cities, including Chicago, the Twin Cities, St. Louis, Milwaukee. Des Moines is only 2.5 hours away. So again, very centrally located. So we love our location.
I think students are really excited about classes in the new building. I think that the building is set up in such a way that there's a seamless transition between classroom and the laboratory, and I think that's very exciting. In the old building, the transition would be from floor to floor. Here we go from one room right next to a contiguous room, and we're in the lab. The other thing that's pretty exciting about this building, I think, is the open spaces. There's lots of open spaces for faculty and students to interact.
So that was Professor Tepper. He is the professor that takes classes down to the Bahamas and Belize every year. They're pretty popular, especially the one to the Bahamas, because that takes place in February. But he's right. The new Science Center is fantastic. And I definitely wanted to highlight this because it was a huge project. It was $35 million to construct this new building, Russell Science Center, as well as renovate West Science, our existing science building. So now biology, chemistry, engineering, physics, math, and computer science all have brand new facilities to work in. So that is fantastic. Also, I'm glad that Craig pointed it out, but the classrooms and the labs in Russell Science Center were built with advice from the faculty on how they taught on the block plan. They move back and forth between lab and classroom regularly, between the morning and the afternoon, or even within one of those sessions. And so they need to be able to go back and forth. So that's why they're connected, and it works really well for those programs. We've also had a bunch of new programs in the last 5 to 6 years. We have engineering now, which we did not have 10 years ago. We have both a BA in engineering sciences as well as a BSE, Bachelor of Science in Engineering. We also started a business major with 5 different concentrations. We have a BFA in musical theater and a behavioral neuroscience concentration in our psychology department now. About 5 or 6 years ago now, all of our first-year residence halls were renovated. Since then, our football stadium and soccer stadium have both had renovations. And I just feel like all of these things have just added to the momentum of the college. I mean, the 14 years I've been at Cornell, I feel like we've just picked up speed every year. This last year, we did rank number 68 in US News and World Report. And while I don't believe rankings are the end all be all of the way you should conduct a college search, it did feel affirming to see that we've moved so much in the rankings. And the other one that I was most proud of, honestly, was the fact that we ranked number 1 in social mobility. It really shows that what we're doing at Cornell has an impact on people, a real tangible impact. So really proud to work for an institution that is able to do that. So as I mentioned earlier, the Berry Career Institute is one of the services or offices on campus that helps students in doing everything from helping them get a summer job, between their freshman year and sophomore year, to helping them take that next step to a career or to graduate school. They offer individual sessions for students to sit down and talk about resumes, talk about interview skills, all the way to larger group sessions where they can talk about all kinds of different relevant topics for students who are ready to take those steps. They also have a lot to show for their success. About half of our students at Cornell will complete an internship. It's just under 50%. About half will also complete research, and a little over half will go on to earn advanced degrees. About 96% of our students who are seeking employment will have employment 6 months out of graduation. So we're also really proud of that, and we've worked very, very hard to make sure that we have good participation in those surveys to really understand what's happening to our students when they leave. The students who do go on to get advanced degrees, we have a 91% acceptance rate to law school, as well as a 76% acceptance rate to medical school, and that's about twice the national average. So again, those are stats that we're just really proud of, and we feel like all the individual mentoring and support that students have at Cornell really leads to those wonderful numbers. So I did want to talk a little bit about paying for college. The number one piece of advice that I would have is use the net price calculator tool. I can't speak for other colleges, but we do try to make our net price calculator as accurate as possible. It doesn't serve us to make it inaccurate. So we want it to be a good tool for you. So I would recommend using that. When you apply to Cornell as a student, you will be automatically considered for our Merit Scholarship program. For this next academic year, the Merit Scholarships range from $20,000 all the way up to $34,000 per year. We do have fine arts scholarships in music, art, theater, and dance. The music, art, and theater scholarships are available in the smaller amounts, but can also range up to full tuition for students who are interested in majoring in those areas. And then we did start an esports team last year, so we have some small scholarships available in that area as well. And then, of course, fill out the FAFSA. There is need-based aid available at Cornell, and we always want to make sure that students are getting the maximum amount of aid that they can receive. So we really encourage students to pursue all avenues, the scholarships, the need-based aid, and everything put together.
If I could describe
Cornell in one word.
If I could describe Cornell in one word.
One? Just one?
One word.
One word.
One word. It would be challenging.
Remarkable.
Unique.
Opportunity.
Involvement.
Family.
Home.
Community.
Togetherness.
Intense.
Open. Engaging.
Focused. Experiences.
Motivating.
Caring.
Amazing.
Outstanding.
Home.
Unique.
Community.
Intense.
Magical.
Life-changing. Empowering.
Awesome. It's really awesome.
Well, I can't sum it up much better than that. So are there any questions that I could answer, anything I could elaborate on right now?
Deborah, I neglected to mention that Deborah was here with us. I apologize for that.
Just this.
We have our senior consultant, Deborah, here from her home in the Cleveland, Ohio area. Deborah, do you have any questions?
Sure. Well, first, this is, Marie, we're so glad that you're here. This is the second time I've heard you present, and you do such a lovely job. And I was thinking, Hannah mentioned at the beginning that you're part of the 40 colleges in the Colleges That Change Lives group. And I am reminded that I think that title is certainly well-deserved with Cornell. And I hope that our audience has learned a lot today and expanded their view of the possibilities that are out there of some places that maybe they haven't heard of. I wondered, you did mention that you're in a small town, and I think sometimes people make the assumption with places, and there are many colleges that are in small towns, but people make the assumption that there's nothing to do there. And so I wondered, could you talk about the engagement of the student body within the community that you're in and how your students are giving back?
Yeah, well, the campus is located in the heart of Mount Vernon, and the downtown area is 2 blocks from campus. So it's really easy to take a few steps off campus and be right there in the middle of some great restaurants, some really interesting little shops. Mount Vernon is a really unique place. And I know when I first moved there, when I thought of small town, I thought of tumbleweeds rolling through Main Street, nothing going on, buildings shuttered and closed, and there's no life. And there's really not a vacant storefront in Mount Vernon. They've all got something interesting going on. And so that's one of the things that I just always loved about the town. And I know that students do utilize the town. One of the activities during the orientation is kind of a scavenger hunt where all the first year students are going in and out of the businesses and picking up either little freebies or coupons or clues or something that goes with their scavenger hunt. But that way they're getting through the door and getting to see all the different things that are available. Again, growing up in a big city, the first time I drove through Mount Vernon, I just remember turning to my husband and saying, "That's it? We just saw the whole thing." But when you live there, you realize, oh my gosh, there's so much packed into this place. The people of Mount Vernon, I think, also recognize how great a contribution that Cornell is in the community, because if you go to a basketball game, there are community members that just come out because they love watching college basketball, and so they'll come out to our games, or volleyball. And the gym is packed in the fall, and it's hot there sometimes in those first few weeks of fall when it's still hot outside, and people are just enthusiastic about it. We also, when I lived there, I have 2 young daughters, and we'd go to the music concerts all the time. And same thing, you look in the audience and you knew it wasn't just parents of students coming to watch their children play on stage, but it was community members that were out there too. So there's just a great dynamic between the two. Also, again, with going on the line that there's things going on, one of the best festivals of all in Mount Vernon is Chalk the Walk, which happens in the first week of May. And they close off those 2-3 blocks of downtown. And chalk artists, I mean, people who are professional artists, people who are art teachers, and just artists who just enjoy making art will come out, and there will literally be like 100 6-foot by 6-foot chalk art drawings all over the downtown area. And that is just one of the most fun festivals, and it is packed on that weekend when we host that. So yeah, always things going on, and the students are definitely engaging with the community. Also, one other thing I'll say though, that you bring up a good point about what is there to do. Well, about 40% of our students do participate in student athletics, so there's a lot of involvement with that, and about 25% do performing arts, so art and theater, music and theater, and then there's over 100 clubs, so there's just always something going on. One popular event during block breaks, when there's that 4-day weekend with no homework, I'll tell a quick story. One morning I was working on Saturday in the office, and I was taking a family out of the building to take them on a tour or have them meet up with their tour guide. And all of a sudden we look up the hill toward King Chapel, and this group of students with like Nerf guns and bandanas is running down the hill screaming, not at us, but it still was like kind of weird and unnerving. And it was like, what is going on? Well, then I came to learn that over block break, Humans versus Zombies is one of the most popular games, and it takes place over all 4 days of the block break. So by the end of the block break, you have to get to the emergency helicopter liftoff area without getting attacked by the zombies.
Marie, could I ask a follow-up question? I think we'd be remiss today if we didn't acknowledge that the reason that we're meeting in this fashion is because of the pandemic and the virus. And I'm wondering if you could speak to our audience about some of the things that you all are doing in this very unusual time.
Yeah, well, first of all, you know, all of this has happened so recently, and we're all still kind of reeling from it. But I have to say I've been really, really proud of my colleagues in the way that we've handled it. One of the things we wanted to do is make sure that all of our students that we work with, whether it's the seniors who have already been admitted or the seniors that are still going through the process, or even the juniors who are trying to launch a college search in the middle of this, that we are still trying to meet their needs and get their questions answered and give them a feel for campus. So pretty much within the very first week, we went ahead with our admitted student event in March that we just kept it on the same day and just did a virtual version of it. This week, at the end of the week on Thursday and Friday, we're doing an open house, both on Thursday evening and then on Friday during the day. And those virtual events have been structured in like 2 30-minute Q&A sessions where people get onto a Zoom meeting and they'll be able to see like a panel of either college leaders or students and faculty, and they can actually type in questions and we'll respond to those in live time. We also have a series of recordings that we've done on various topics that we've been sharing with families. So we really are still trying to get information out to families. The other thing that we are doing is we've been very cognizant of the impact that this is having on students. So, I mean, ACT or SAT, if you are planning to take the March test or the April test, like that's out the window. That's not going to happen now. So we have always been, well, not always, but the last few years, we have been test optional, and we have that as a pathway for students who aren't able to take the test. And our test optional applicants are still fully eligible for both admission and scholarships. You're not going to be at a disadvantage if you apply that way. So we want to make sure that students are aware of that. We're also going to be really flexible with deadlines. We just know everybody's in a unique situation. We also recognize that this is probably going to have a financial impact on some of our families. And we have yet to see exactly how that's all going to play out. And I think for all of us, we're still trying to determine what that's going to look like exactly. But we do recognize it, and we are already, you know, thinking about how we can best respond to families that may have loss of income or even the loss of a job as a result of this pandemic. So I do feel like we're trying to approach it, trying to think about all those different factors and scenarios.
We have a question from a family here. which is, can you talk about in-state versus out-of-state student population? Where are students coming from?
Yeah, so about 16% of our students come from in the state of Iowa. And then everybody's, yeah, so it's pretty small. The next biggest state is Illinois, which borders us, and it's about the same population. So about a third of our students come from either Illinois or Iowa. But one of our number 3 state is actually Colorado, which is not a border state. We think that's because another national liberal arts college that has the block plan is Colorado College. So we think students in Colorado have the familiarity with the block plan, but yet maybe don't want to stay in state and want to go somewhere a little bit farther away. But for students who may be listening to this right now, you know, if you are not from the Midwest, if you're not from really close to campus, that's okay. You're not going to be in your residence hall with nobody around on the weekends. That's the case for most of our students, is that they're on campus. They're here because they're from California or they're from New York. We have almost all 50 states represented. So not only are you going to have a great social scene because everybody's going to be on campus doing activities like humans versus zombies, but that also means you're going to have really great class discussions because you're going to have so many different perspectives and so many points of view.
That's great. And you mentioned in a follow-up to Deborah's question about you're doing online information sessions, it sounds like, this spring. So if a family is interested in participating in that, how would they get that information?
So if you go to our website, there's a link right on the front page of the website. And there's ways to register for the virtual open houses and also virtual individual visits. If you just really want to have that one-on-one conversation, our admission counselors are also scheduling one-on-one Zoom meetings with students. And we'll schedule all the regular appointments that we would normally too. You know, if you're a senior and you really feel like you need to talk to a biology professor to really understand more about that program, we'll set that up. We'll let you talk to the basketball coach one-on-one or to someone in the Berry Career Center if you want to talk about internship possibilities. Our campus, it's been amazing. I mean, again, it just makes me really proud to work for this place, but we have come together and everybody is like, all right, we're pitching in. How can we help? What can we do? One of the other things I thought about when I was playing the video earlier was that just recently we had a video that was put together of faculty all saying, you can do this for Block 7, because our Block 7 course just started on Monday. And I'm sure that they were saying it a little bit to themselves because this is our first time that our faculty have had to teach online. So they're probably a little nervous too, but we're going to do this and we're all going to be okay. And it was just it was great to see this video compilation of all these professors holding their cats or holding their kids or whatever, standing in front of their house, but just saying, we can do this. We're coming together and we're going to do it. It was really cool.
Marie, are interviews either highly recommended or required? And if so, how are you dealing with that in this time?
They're not required. I wouldn't even say that they're recommended, other than not from an admission standpoint, but really if you want to get to learn about this college, you got to meet the people. When I moved away, because I work remotely now, I think I've mentioned that, I thought I was going to be really sad to leave my house and my neighborhood, but then I realized as I said goodbye to people, it was all the people. And that's when the tears were really flowing. But yeah, I think that just doing the interview is the greatest way to get connected and hear the stories that are relevant to you and your situation. Admission counselors we're people. We like to share stories. We like to tell you about our experiences and what we've learned about the campus. So, you know, take a little time out of your day and connect with your admission counselor, not just at Cornell, but at all your schools. You're going to get you'll get a much better sense of the campus that you can't get right now being on campus yourself.
So if I went to your website, I would be able to register for an online interview right now?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. I don't see any additional questions right now. Deborah, do you have anything else?
I don't think so. Thank you.
I don't think so either. I'm looking at the clock and thinking we've kept you 15 minutes over.
That's okay. I'm happy to talk about the school, but yeah, if anybody does have questions later on though, feel free to reach out to me. I'm more than happy to connect via phone, email, Skype, Zoom, whatever it takes.
That's great. And we record all of these meetings and we post them so that folks can share with their friends and family and people that they think would be interested as well. So that's great. Thank you so much for joining us, Marie. We really appreciate it. Cornell College, special place, colleges that change lives.
Yeah.
And I know I have a couple students that are interested in looking your way this year, so that's fantastic. We will be back, Deborah and I will be back on Thursday, and I can't remember off the top of my head. Do you remember who it is, Deborah? I don't know.
Off the top of my head, I'm sorry. Sarah can help us.
Sarah, do you know who it is? It's all right. It'll be a surprise. We'll post. We have another college visitor on Thursday.
UNC Wilmington.
UNC Wilmington. Okay.
Great. Thanks, Sarah.
Schools from across the country. And with that, I hope everybody has a wonderful afternoon. Stay healthy. And we will see you next time. Thanks so much.
Bye,
Thank
everybody.
you. Bye.